Welcome to the third seminar in this series of 3 webinars on carrier Ethernet services. I'm Daniel Bardlev from the MEF. With me I have John Hawkins from Ciena and Alex Connors from Vodafone. In the first 2 seminars we talked about the state of the carrier Ethernet services market, where it is today, who's using it, and we also talked about the value proposition of carrier Ethernet services. In this third webinar, we're going to talk about the future of carrier Ethernet services, where we go from here. So hold on to your hats because we're going to be going very fast. John, tell us about the third network.
Yes, the third network is a useful concept, a useful vision articulated by the MEF to capture really the combination of 2 worlds. The world of the internet, which is ubiquitous. It's available everywhere. It connects us with anything around the global internet. But the other half of the equation that we want to include in that, the other part of the best of the both worlds, is the carrier Ethernet, carrier Ethernet 2.0 network, as we call it within the MEF context, which is secure, very reliable, but not as ubiquitous as the internet. So we combine those 2 into what we call a concept of a third network, or a vision of the third network. In fact, there's a very well-received white paper on MEF.net if you'd like to download that and read more about that concept. It's described as being agile, assured, and orchestrated. And by that we mean agile in the sense that it can be spun up anywhere we need it at the time we need it. So it's available when we need it. Assured is the concept of secure, reliable, that it's available in a predictable fashion where we need it. And then orchestrated is the end-to-end concept of, irrespective of the underlying technologies, even the underlying operators, that connectivity is available to the end user. So we think about it in the analogy being of the telephone system. You pick up the telephone today, you don't worry about how many operators are involved in connecting you to Australia. It just works. We'd like the same sort of concept to be available in an Ethernet services context. So agile, assured, and orchestrated. Now there are a lot of moving parts that go into that, but this is the vision. This is the roadmap, the journey that we're on. Much of this is very futuristic, needs to be worked on, but that is the vision as articulated by the MEF.
So Alex, perhaps you can put some color around that, agile, assured, and orchestrated from the point of view of your customers. What do you think they should understand by agile and assured and orchestrated? Perhaps some examples there.
Yeah. So just let me reiterate what John was saying. This isn't stuff that we can do now, but this is where we're heading to. And we talked right back in the beginning of the first webinar about the fact that customers need agility in their network. And one of the really interesting things that we've seen is that when we talk about customers moving services to the cloud, we're seeing 2 different worlds collide. One world which is all about instant provisioning, instant delivery of services in the cloud environment, and one, the network world, which has traditionally been about provisioning services within weeks or months. Right, the 2 just don't seem to live together very well. When we move into this more agile world, we're talking about provisioning circuits and services within hours, minutes, seconds even. So when customers want services or want access to services within the cloud, then those services will be instantly available to them. That will make a huge change to the way that businesses operate their networks. The assured piece, I think, is also equally important for our customers. And it goes back to the analogy John was just using about the fact that customers will worry less about what sits under the bonnet, but know that because they've got an assured network that will incorporate different elements from either different technologies or even different vendors, but all put together and delivered as a single service, they need to worry less about it, but it will deliver them the service quality that they need.
So that's sort of it seems to be showing that there's going to be a major shift from today. It seems like you get your connectivity and then you look at what apps you're going to run over that connection. And when that connection can actually be pulled up almost instantaneously, it seems actually that it's the apps that will come first and the connectivity will fall transparently, automatically, will happen behind the scenes. Do you see that sort of interest demand in your customers, that the connectivity will be actually driven by the apps?
I think that's what customers want. I mean, we definitely see that there will be that major shift, but I think that'll take time. It'll be a few years away, and in fact, that's a complete change in mindset. The mindset now is build a network and then think about the apps that are going to be delivered over it. If we can move to the environment where actually customers are beginning to identify we want to use these particular services and access them immediately, and then those services defining the network's features and quality that's required to make them operate correctly. Completely different environment our customers are working with, and very exciting. It means, again, coming back to one of the earlier themes, it helps customers manage their costs much more efficiently as well, because again, they're only provisioning the networks that is required by those applications for their businesses to work properly.
We're seeing some of the beginnings of that now with a couple of examples I might cite. If you have a Salesforce that uses Salesforce.com, for instance, and they're able to achieve that connectivity on demand, irrespective of where they are in the world. So that database may reside at different places at different times. So Salesforce itself may dial up interconnections between those points of presence as necessary by the end user location, by the time of day, by what the status of one data center is versus the other. Similarly, we have applications that run VMware software that move virtual machines around depending, again, on the cost of hosting those virtual machines in various data centers, maybe following the sun kind of activity. So those are, I think, glimpses of the future that we're starting to see already. But really, the third network gets us into a very, very dynamic and very, very agile situation that goes very well beyond even that.
Yeah, I mean, as a user, to me, it seems like today I'm using applications on the computer that's sitting next to my leg under the desk.
Yeah.
Going forward, some of that, all of that may actually be happening not next to my leg underneath the table, but anywhere in the cloud, and I won't care. It's sort of that compute and that storage and that connectivity is all going to happen very quickly, and it's going to make everything very transparent as to where it's actually located.
And I think we're already seeing many of our customers begin to look towards that type of model. Vodafone, like all carriers, are working very much on SDN, NFV architectures that are going to drive our network forward. And that's all about instant provisioning of services across the network, be that application performance management, firewalls, router protocols, whatever it may be that's required at the customer side, and then instant provisioning of networking too. And as we start to build that, and as other carriers do too, customers are beginning to understand, okay, well, this means a change in the way that I provision my networks and a change in the way that I will look for my networks to operate in the future, which is quite exciting. We don't yet have customers telling us, I want to buy an SDN service, because that's not relevant for them. What they want is an outcome, which is faster provisioning of networks and faster provisioning of features and services across that network.
Which portends a lot to the topic of automation, which we've mentioned in previous webinars as well, which has to do with avoiding truck rolls, for instance, where they're not necessary. So the process happens automatically under the covers, behind the curtain, so that the application itself, as you say, is more in the driver's seat than the network. So the network is enabling an application in that case. So automation is a key to all of this, bringing in some of these NFV functions, for instance, where they're needed and when they're needed.
So on that topic of automation, with the caveat that this isn't today, it's going to happen, but automation is actually going to enable a lot of self-service capabilities for customers eventually, the sort of self-service that we're used to with buying products online, Amazon. How do you see that unfolding, Alex?
We're already seeing customers thinking about that. So thinking about provisioning services based on, or even sites based on policies. So I want a site that has these particular features, these particular functions, this particular bandwidth, and I want that provisioned immediately. That kind of policy-based delivery of service is quite a new concept and something that people are quite excited about. And that's why Vodafone is working with the likes of Ciena and MEF to bring together these particular concepts into the marketplace and to work with our network operations people to make sure that we deliver not just a technology but a service that our customers can use to provision sites and services, at the click of a button. So it's quite an exciting world that our customers are moving into.
It sort of also changes the dynamic with your partners as well. You're much more reliant on that automation to remove manual intervention.
Well, if you take it to its real extreme, at the moment, we will always every carrier relies on third parties, usually for the last mile. Take this to its natural extreme, then there'll be no manual intervention there at all. I want to deliver a service to a particular country and I want an access circuit to a particular site. We have the APIs that will link those two networks together, enabling us to provision right the way through to the end customer site. Again, a completely different way of delivering services and something that will change certainly the speed in which we can deliver networks and manage networks globally.
So the next thing is Internet of Things. Everybody is hearing about IoT, and it seems like this is the even more extreme example of where automation can take us.
It really redefines the end point, sort of redefines the customer as well. The customer is not a site. It could be a moving car, autonomous car, an aircraft, a sensor somewhere in the network that has a totally different set of requirements from the network. There are many more of them. They talk less. They don't have as much bandwidth requirements, perhaps, as a video camera in a stadium, but they have a lot to say, and they need to be online. If you're in an autonomous car going down the highway at breakneck speed, you don't want to lose connectivity just because you crossed over into another operator's territory or footprint.
And you don't want to be hacked.
And you don't want to be hacked by some high school student on the side of the road. So it's very important that we understand those requirements as being quite different, but quite exciting as well in terms of making life easier going forward.
So I think we can sum up by saying that carrier Ethernet services are future-proofing the enterprise, building third network capabilities on carrier Ethernet services that are being rolled out today enables the enterprises to innovate in ways that we can't really even imagine today, but it's all on that foundation of carrier Ethernet services. So with that, I'd like to thank you for joining us for this third webinar in the series. And if you have any questions, please contact us.